Terima kasih banyak dan Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bisa dengar?
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ya,
bisa
dengar
bagus.
saya?
Bagus.
Ya, selamat pagi dari Virginia. Saya di wilayah Virginia, ada hujan. Tetapi di rumah saja sama suaminya. Dan saya senang sekali bisa join this morning. So, Pak Jajang, thank you very much for the introduction, and I'm so honored to be here with Professor Dr. Rektor Amany, Prof. Jajat, Prof. Andi, all of the honored guests, Dr. Imam Shamsi Ali in New York, hello, and in Minneapolis, hello, Pat Hans. My father was a professor in philosophy at Boston College for 50 years. Is this where you did your PhD?
Yes, but in theology department.
In theology, but I'm sure you know many, many people in common. So, yeah, so nice to see some Indonesian friends in the United States. Yeah, I'm very disappointed this summer. I was going to spend 6 or 8 weeks in Indonesia and working on a joint project with UIN Jakarta. Among other things, my research over 20 years has concerned really the performance of Islam. And as a musician and an ethnomusicologist, I look at the way that music reflects and projects social and cultural ideas in society. And of course, any religion is a place where you find performance, ritual performance, dramatic performance, and particularly the spoken word as performed. And we see this in the most sublime way in the Quran. And the Quran, of course, comes to life in Ramadan. Even if you don't understand one word of Arabic, even if you don't understand anything about Islam, you cannot help but have your soul be nourished every day by the sounds of communal Salat Taraweh every evening, by the singing of salawatan in family gatherings and so forth. And so that's really my study. I'm not a bona fide scholar of religion, but I've spent several Ramadans in Indonesia with my friends, and I try to follow the traditions, certainly always to respect the traditions and try to follow the rhythms of daily life. I often am living with Korea Ibu Maria Ulfa in Ciputat, and so then I'm just part of the family. So I really am sorry not to be with you this summer. And when I sent Pak Daddy a message lewat WA, minggu lalu saya bilang, okay, semester hampir selesai, when can I join you lewat Zoom? And he invited me, so thank you so much. I have a few comments. Yeah, when we think about ritual and festival in any society, I often start with the very useful morphology by Alessandro Falassi, who is his Italian name belies him as Italian, but he's a folklorist. And he has a wonderful article called The Morphology of Festival. And even though we talk about the religious foundations of fasting, we also see the festive aspects of, ada screen sharing? No, that's not my screen sharing, but anyway. We also see how much the Bulan Puasa is a month of a festival, right? So in festivals, so we have certain rites, for example, rites of passage. So, birth, coming of age, marriage, death. And there are also many agricultural rites of passage, right? The changing of seasons, planting, harvest, times of plenty, times of emptiness. We also see rites of reversal, right? So we can see in America, like the festival of Halloween, right? Where we get dressed up as our favorite character, or often where we see the underclass, the poorer members of the society, dress up as the overclass. Perhaps in a way, these rites of reversal are also ways of critique, right? And I know that there are many kinds of theater and festivals in Indonesia where you see these rites of reversal. Rites of conspicuous display. I think here we see this in our holiday traditions, whether it's the month of Ramadan and Eid al-Fitri, or, for us, Christmas. I mean, everything changes, right? You look in the mall, you look at the way people dress, you look at the way people put signs on their cars, right? We are displaying, we are showing off to the world, one, that it's time for festival, but maybe also going overboard in these rites of conspicuous display. Your new clothing, the presents that you can buy for your family, and the commercialization that occurs. And I have no doubt that there is a counterpoint in Indonesia right now, as there is in the United States, about how much money is being lost in this time of Ramadan, when people aren't circulating and doing buka puasa in restaurants and so forth. So rites of conspicuous display and rites of conspicuous consumption, right? So whether it's Thanksgiving meal or Christmas or in Eid al-Fitri or buka puasa, the idea of not just enough, but more than enough. And of course, to show your generosity, whether it's generosity to your family or your neighbors or your coworkers or your boss or to people who are less fortunate, but these rites of conspicuous display, special foods, special meals, and also within this rites of exchange, right? And we see this in many kinds of many cultures, the rites of exchange. And rites here, I'm speaking of rites, R-I-T-E-S, so rituals, not like rights, like human rights, right? So rites of passage, rites of reversal, rites of conspicuous display, ritual dramas, right? The ritual drama, how we teach our children. Why is this important, right? And we were just listening to the traditions of Lent and of Jesus. We just had Easter here, and every year we retell that story, right? We retell that through sermons, through songs, through passages in the Bible, and so forth. So in some of these, there are kind of some downsides. For example, when I experience the wonderful month of Ramadan, it's like every day is sort of a microcosm of, fasting and remembering to be, very much inner focused. But then this moment of food insecurity and the breaking of fast and making sure that you're through the machet in time to be at the restaurant and all of the dishes are on the table before the call happens, right? And I think this time, I would imagine, maybe just like for us, doing things quietly and at home has brought some reflection to the ways that we are so dynamic and so social, and we have all these invitations, and so I mean, this time of year is so busy at the end of the semester. I'm usually on campus 4 nights a week, and meetings and recitals and thesis defense and so forth. And just to be calm and at home is a kind of blessed experience, right? I'm very sorry not to be with my friends and with my colleagues, and especially with my students. But it's also a time to remember how much running around we do. And we see how happy the environment is, that we're not in our cars every day, and the birds are singing and the air is clear and even the earth has stopped vibrating. So sometimes I think our festivals and our rituals come with a kind of excess, perhaps. It's kind of speaking in anthropological terms. This time has really brought, as Ustez in New York, really brought us to realize how much, it says Imam Shamsi Ali, yeah, how much, how we are connected globally. And there is no, just as the Quran does not recognize someone because they're Muslim, they recognize someone because they're human. And we see that obviously with the wabah corona, right? This pandemic, that no one is immune, right? And that we are all so interconnected. And we also are so disappointed in our leadership. And we realize how important personal responsibility is. We just had graduation this weekend, and I'm the director of Asian and Middle Eastern Studies and within global studies at William and Mary. And one of the things that I realize is how privileged I am to be able to work at home. My husband and I are at home and we divide up the space. When does he have a call? So I said this morning, I'm talking to Indonesia. I want the living room. So I'm in the living room. He's downstairs in the study. And we're so lucky that we have our jobs. We don't need to ask for that handout that the government is giving to less fortunate people. But it also reminds me how privileged I am to be able to jump on a plane every month to go to a conference, or to be able to fly to Indonesia to do this fascinating research, which of course has boosted my prestige. What if that's all taken away? What if we can't be these cosmopolitan academics that we want to be? That's a big question now, right? And alhamdulillah, ada Zoom, yeah, we've got Zoom. So that's great. And we can stay connected, and with We'a and our phones. And I'm sending pictures to my children all the time. But it really does make you stop and think about your privilege, as an anthropologist, as an ethnographer, as an international academic, things that I value more than anything. To not have the opportunity to circulate is really, it's a kind of denial. Like we are in another kind of fasting right now. I'm fasting from my children. This weekend, our son graduated from college, and our whole family would be in the state of Vermont this weekend. And we just had to watch his graduation on the computer, and then, call him on the cell phone and say, we miss you, sweetheart. Congratulations. We're proud of you. But so we're really in a double state of sort of fasting and denial. It tests our resilience. It tests our calm, our patience. And I'm lucky we have a beautiful yard here. So I go and dig in the dirt and plant my vegetables and watch them come up, and those kinds of things that are so close to spirituality. I think appreciating the earth and appreciating nature and appreciating the fact that I'm not living in a tiny apartment with 10 people, and that I do have access to clean air and clean water and food. There's so much to be thankful for. So resilience, calm, patience, gratitude, and faith that I will one day be able to gather with you, and that in the meantime, you're all well and happy and productive and extraordinarily resourceful and creative. This is one thing that just nourishes my soul when I go to Indonesia, just to see how resourceful and creative and positive my friends and colleagues in your beautiful country always are, and how welcoming and tolerant you always are of me, even though ada banyak kesalahan bahasa Indonesia dan seterusnya. So I think I'll stop there and keep appreciating all the comments of everybody else. Pak Dadi, thank you so much for including me in this conversation.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Bu En, for your presentation. So you miss Ramadan very much. I can hear from your presentation, I can hear from your voice. So you miss the nuance of the Ramadan in Indonesia, yeah?
Oh,
You
I
miss
do.
the-
Yeah. I mean,
You
just
miss the-
two little anecdotes. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the first Musabaqah Tilawatil Quran that I attended was during Ramadan. And I remember Ibu Maria Ulfa, who I had just met, and I always have Pat Dadi to thank for my introduction to her. She picked me up with a car absolutely packed to the hilt. Like, you couldn't drive a car like this in the United States, you'd get arrested. Nobody wearing seatbelts, pouring down rain, absolutely pouring down rain. And we went to TVRI in downtown Jakarta and had this Musabaqah Tilwatil Quran with male reciters and female reciters and, you know, bands playing music, you know, Seni Musik Islam in the breaks. And, you know, so much of this nuansa bulan puasa is so much fun, and it's so celebrative. Of course, in the evening, right? And then when I was in Indonesia for 6 months in 2017, I was introduced to these Musabaqah Patrol. And Patrol are these bands in Malang that go around and do sabuh. And they're dynamic and loud and all combinations of instruments, local and, you know, boys and girls mixing together. And so in these malls, you know, before Buka Puasa, they would have the competitions of the Patrol. And so, yes, I miss this. And this only happens in Bulan Puasa. So it's just such a creative and exciting and wonderful time. And I miss
Yes.
it very much.